than we have seen in the last 6 to 8 months. We have many testing issues that are now being resolved because more testing companies are coming into the county. We're working on getting those tied into the state system, so there's a lot of testing issues right now where people are going to testing sites. It doesn't get reported to the state, therefore we don't know about it. So there are a number of people in Kenosha County who are not getting a call from the health department because it's simply not going through the proper reporting channels, but we're working with those testing sites to get that taken care of. The bulk majority of our time is working with the various schools and the districts to be able to help them in whatever needs they have, whether that's through contact tracing or guidelines, board meetings, that sort of thing. Our call center is also receiving an increased level of calls, and this is largely due to the confusion around the boosters, all the things people are hearing on the news with kids, vaccination, and when that's coming and that sort of thing. So we are certainly increasing in the number of calls. We're preparing for some booster clinics and working with the hospitals and all the clinics and the other vaccine providers in the county to ramp up for vaccine boosters. We already are seeing about 15 to 20 a day in our clinics that of people coming to ask for the third dose, the booster shot. And kids, of course, we won't know about that until probably November, even when that gets approved through the FDA. It then has to go to the CDC, the ACIP, it comes down to the State Disaster Medical Advisory Committee, and then it comes down from the state to the local level. So even when you hear about it on the news, that kids are approved to get vaccinations, it still takes about a week after that before we can actually put shots in arms. So there is a process to that. With regard to the school metrics, I just wanted to address, there was a document that was created last August, and this is the one that you had likely heard about through WILL and that was in the newspaper. This was a document that was developed last August in collaboration with each of our 11 school districts. School nurses, we sit on weekly calls with all of our school districts. We have great relationships with them. Before anybody returned to school last August, we were asked, what would it look like if we had to close? What would it look like? And at that point, we had no idea because school had been, we had the safer at home in the spring. Schools did not go back, and then looking forward to the—
I'm sorry, when you say last August, do you mean 2020?
2020.
Okay.
This was developed then, and it was based upon state DPI and state health department guidance. So this was really a result of the school districts asking us, what could this look like when our school doors open? They asked us to put that in writing. Nowhere in here does it imply that we would close down a school at 3%. We never purported or said we would close down a school at 3%. This was basically a document that we all worked on together collaboratively to try to say, what should this look like? At no time during this entire pandemic have we gone to a school and said, you need to close down. All the schools that have ever closed or classrooms have made that decision on their own based upon staffing levels or disinfection they wanted to do or that sort of thing. We always are there. The schools have called us traditionally in the past last year to sort of ask, this is what we're looking at, this is what our case rate is. And we of course will provide them guidance and the latest research and information of that nature. This year, schools are not always calling, and that is perfectly okay. They are making decisions on their own as to whether they close a whole grade down or close a school down. Those decisions are happening through the schools themselves. So I just wanted to verify that our Corp Council has been in contact with many of the schools, district attorney, or their attorneys that they hire for the school districts. And everybody in the schools, as far as the administration, are very clear that this is not a document where we are purporting that we would go in and close schools at 3%.
Supervisor Decker. Okay, I have talked to several superintendents or administrators from schools, and they have told me that they did not know, or they were told or led to believe that if their positive case percentage was above 3% or above, greater than 3%, the county would trigger the county requiring them to go virtual. I was told by again another superintendent that, and I'm gonna read from the email I received. The language says will trigger, quote, trigger a transition to at-home learning. It doesn't say that the department will recommend a transition. Although the top says recommendation, the subject of the email says finalized decision-making framework, and that it had been approved. In our meetings, we were told by Jen that they would not step in unless we reached 3%. I am not sure how we would have read that as being optional or a time to sit down and review safety protocols, as she stated. In contrast, when we were advised to shut down between Thanksgiving and January 1st last school year, she was clear that it was a local decision. So explain how you're saying that you didn't tell them that it would trigger and the county would step in when this superintendent said that that's what happened.
Yeah, we, with the 3% number, it was, so we had set up a surveillance system that all schools could report into to say how many people they had sick. The schools asked us, based upon that surveillance system, let us know when we hit that number.
When did they say that? In
August of 2020.
Okay, so not this year. We are talking two completely
Correct.
different school years.
Correct.
Last
Please
school
quiet
year
from
was
us.
virtual for a lot, KUSD, it was, hybrid in other schools, and this year was open and no masks in most of the schools, not KUSD. So they are two completely different school years, completely different. So to say that she is saying you were talking different in 2020 than this school year.
We have not changed our stance at all.
Okay, but the way you talk to them is different. This person told me that you specifically told them that this was approved by the board to lead them to believe that they had to follow these metrics. And that also, this says, the following indicators will trigger a transition. It doesn't say we will recommend a transition. It says it will trigger a transition. And the reason why I'm saying this is because last year, I believe, we had businesses, and we called you in and had a meeting with you, or a human services meeting, where we had businesses that were being led to believe that the health department could shut them down, or could pull their permits, or make sure their permits were not approved if they did not follow the Kenosha Kickstart Plan. And so it sounds like the health department, which you lead, did the same thing with businesses as with the school. You led them to believe that you had powers that you did not, to keep them closed down or doing things that they did not want to do. So why did you do this year, this school year, when we told you not to do it with businesses several months ago?
I can assure you that we are not purporting to say that we will close down schools at all. Our communication has always been, we will let you know when we see.
That is not what superintendents told me. I talked to them on the phone. They believed that you would shut them down if they reached 3%. And that is what this document says. It says the following indicators will trigger. It does not say we will recommend. It says it will trigger. It not may trigger, it will trigger. So you do not have the power to shut them down. Did you ever tell them that this school year?
Yes.
When?
On calls that we've had with the schools, they know that we don't have the orders or the ability to shut them down.
The superintendents I talked to never said that you said that. So why would you do that? After we talked to you about the businesses, why would you continue to do that with schools?
I have been very open about the fact that we have no ability to close down.
That is not what she said in the email.
I can't speak to what she said. We have really good communications with all the school district administrators, superintendents. We're talking to them often, and they know where our legal authority lies, and as well, so do we.
It's obvious they don't. And it's obvious you were not clear with it. Because otherwise, they would not have contacted me after the Will article came out in the news, telling me that what you said to Will after that letter came out, was not accurate. They're telling me the opposite of what you said. So,
Supervisor Decker, how can we rectify this?
exactly. Well, yes, like we did. I would like to see the health department move forward and make sure that everything we say, or everything that is put out, is that we do not, these are not required, they are recommended, they are optional, any way that can be as clear as possible, that it is the local decision of the local school board. Just like when we had the businesses that were asking about, can we open up? Can we open up to 50%? Can we open up 100%? And they were under the impression that the health department could shut them down because they were led to believe that. So can we make sure that all of the schools 100% know that is their own local control on all of these decisions?
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments from the committee? Supervisor Rose?
Yeah. Don't you agree though that this memo certainly does, in my mind, and a lot of people I'm sure here believe, that you did have that authority? And I think what concerns me is when a public official speaks, people believe they have the authority. When a sheriff's deputy says X, Y, Z is the law, unless you're a lawyer, you don't question that. And so when you say here recommendations based on metrics, and then proceed to talk about, though every effort will be made to keep our schools open, and then proceed to indicate when the shift will be made, and then you have different categories, you know, only a lawyer might say, well, you're recommending. Technically, you don't have the authority. Most lay people aren't gonna take that to believe that it's a recommendation, because you are the director of health. And I have heard administrators in this community say, you know, the health department director can shut us down. And this is dated here, August 26, 2021. It's not a year ago. It's clearly after the court case. I'm very troubled by why you would put something like this out, and at least in my mind, I don't think there's an adequate explanation. I say, just to repeat, when a public official says, I have that authority and you don't, you know, we're no longer a democracy.
I can assure you, I have never said that I have the authority.
Well,
I simply don't.
who wrote this?
There's nowhere in here to say that we have the authority or that we would shut them down.
Point of order,
Yeah,
Madam Chair,
disagree.
Yes,
we beat this
yes.
horse already.
Yeah, I would disagree with that.
Okay, so the remedy is that we'll put out a new statement, that it's not will, it is, a requirement. Recommendation, yeah, sorry.
And that you do not have the authority.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. We are, moving very quickly here.